Howdy folks, it's Ajo the Hunting Gear Guy, and this is the Holosun HS407CO version 2. It's got kind of a mouthful of a name. It's a reflex red dot. It's a red dot you'd pop on a pistol or maybe on a rifle. Maybe as like your 45-degree offset kind of a thing on a gamer rig. This is primarily, for me at least, a competition red dot. That's what I intend to use it for. An inexpensive competition red dot. I mean, the king of pistol red dots is the Trijicon RMR and that kind of thing. But that's like, I didn't want to spend Trijicon money on a Norinco 1911 9mm pistol, so I decided to get the Holosun, the 407. The 507 costs a little bit more. This one's a little bit cheaper. The 507CO, so the C stands for cells, solar cells on here. That makes sense, right? Kind of. And the O is because it's got a circular dot in there. It's got a ring. It's got an 8 MOA ring in there rather than like a dot or a dot with like some lines around it. It's got a circle in there. It's very inexpensive, and for me, I didn't really care what the optic looked like, and the price was more of a deciding factor. Now, because this is the version 2, there's a couple of changes on it. One is that battery door on the side. That's different, and the other is that these buttons are a little bit larger and they're vertically aligned rather than side to side. So they managed to make them a little bit bigger. And I've got another red dot that's got quite small buttons on it. This one's very easy to press in comparison. So before we get too far, let's just make sure we clear this pistol. Magazine's out, chamber's empty. So we're good to take a closer look at this thing. That could be a little bit difficult to capture a red dot, but that's approximately what it looks like, a 8 MOA circle. Now, just starting from the left-hand side here, we've got our plus and minus, so increased brightness, reduced brightness. I never use these. I typically leave it on auto brightness, and I use the shake awake feature. The shake awake feature, basically, if it's just sitting there, it automatically turns itself off. You pick it up, and the dot is on, and that is super interesting from a competition point of view, because really it means that I stick this thing in my safe. It stays in there, just sipping away at the battery. I go to a match, and it's on the whole match, which is kind of what I want. I don't really want to pull the gun up and forget that I didn't turn it on and be trying to press a button under stress to get this thing going. So I do like that aspect. You can kind of see from the back there, it's got a bit of a blue cast in it. It is quite blue. I think that kind of coating is something they do to increase the visibility of the dot and make the battery last a bit longer. I mean, one thing that you notice about this sight is that it does have quite a small battery in it. Here's the tool that they give you. There's the Torx end. There's the flat end. You need that flat end to be able to use a couple of the things on here. So it makes for a handy addition to your shooting kit. We pull that screw off. Now this is weather sealed. The whole thing's weather sealed, but we need to kind of lever it out of there. So we'll just pull on that drawer, and it just pops right out. And you can see that battery coming out. And that battery is a 1632, which is a bit of an oddball size. You might want to get some spares. You don't need many of them because this thing has a battery life of around 50,000 hours. You're not going to need a lot of batteries. In case you're wondering how to get the batteries back in, you see on the battery tray it says plus there, and the batteries say plus on the flat side, so you just pop that back in, and you can slide it back into the drawer. But I'll show you something interesting, because you don't actually need a battery in there because of these solar cells on top. So if I start hitting plus on here, and I give this thing a little bit of juice, aka a big-ass flashlight, it will allow me to turn it on. Now, it won't do the shake awake thing because it doesn't know it's supposed to turn on, but as soon as I hit that power, you can actually see that I've got some light, and I can back that flashlight off, and we still have a fairly decent LED. No light, no power. So it is those solar cells on top powering this up, which means if you were at a competition and your battery was totally dead, as long as you were outdoors, you'd be good. You'd be okay. You'd be able to run this thing just off of the power of the sun for your stage. Our windage adjustment is on the side. Our elevation adjustment is on the top here. They are 1 MOA per click. I'm just going to put this next to my mic and see if we can hear a click. Oh, you heard it. Very nice audible clicks out of that thing. Now, it still feels kind of mushy moving it back and forth, but at least you can hear it. At least you can hear when those clicks are happening. Be very easy to dial this thing in just because it's that 1 MOA and it's nice and clicky. Now, looking down into this site, one of the interesting things that I found is there's the back shelf here isn't getting in the way of the glass. You get a full view of the glass. So when you've got the dot on target, you've got that whole thing to look at. You can see the thickness of this housing as well. Now the top, that isn't like the full thickness because we still have some solar panels on there. But even on the sides, it's got some decent meat in there to protect that glass. So this looks to be a fairly durable housing on this thing. So this is the 407. There's also a 507. The 507's got a better, like a smaller dot on it. A couple of other options with the reticle, whereas this one is just that 8 MOA circle with the middle cutout. Now, can you actually see in the middle of that circle? Kind of not. I mean, you're going to be target focused anyway, so you're going to be looking at the target, not at the dot. You're just going to be looking at the target and aligning it there. Can you look inside that circle? I found that not for anything real specific. It kind of washes it out. To have that dot bright enough, you may be washing out the middle of the dot and not be able to make out fine details. But that's okay. I found using this thing on a pistol was fine. The amount that I could resolve past the target and on the target with that ring on it was fine. I'm just going to throw some other specs at you on this thing. In terms of windage and elevation, it will do 50 MOA in both directions, which is a decent amount of adjustment. The clicks are 1 MOA, as I mentioned. Battery life on it depends on the brightness setting and how often you use it, but they stated it's 50,000 hours, which is right around 5 years, depending on how often you use it, which means you shouldn't actually stock up on batteries for this thing. Buy them once every 3 years and replace them if you really want to be careful. But I wouldn't bother buying like 5 batteries for this thing at once because your batteries, like they're going to age out before you actually get to use them on this thing. So again, that was the Holosun HS407CO. A decent little pistol optic for the price if you want to be doing some pistol competition. Thanks for watching.